Good afternoon, folks. Welcome back to the Food for the Faithful channel with me, your reluctant prophet, Bill Reimer. I hope you watched my magnum opus from the other day. If you haven't, go back and watch it, because today I'm going to address some concerns from that blog and vodcast. So here's the first concern. Why attempt a debate with me when you haven't heard my argument? It happens all the time to me. People read the title or some minimal thoughts I have provided when posting each episode to social media, then attempt to debate with me without ever having read my blog or watched my vodcast. Nor have they looked at the data that Bing AI has collated for me to create my blog and vodcast. In using Bing AI, I am engaging in none other than a sophisticated form of plagiarism. So often when you disagree with me, you are simply disagreeing with the vast sources of data Bing AI has accessed. We live in an age when the Socratic method is not simply being rejected. My interlocutors seem to be utterly unaware that such a method exists. So permit me to refresh your memory again with the help of Bing AI. I will add this very important caveat emptor. Since the information I am currently using to create both blog and vodcast comes from Bing AI, I will no longer omit the sources from which it has collated its information. Also, when I provide my own thoughts, I will be far more careful to differentiate between information coming directly from Bing AI from those of my own conclusions, thoughts, and of course, my own personal opinions. I thought I had done this, but obviously I had failed to make myself sufficiently clear. Since 5 why problem solving is something I taught and is a valuable tool in root cause analysis, useful to assign documented corrective actions in a factory setting, I have employed it to ask Bing AI a series of carefully crafted questions to arrive at the root cause of the problems I am attempting to solve. The issue at hand, which is perhaps the dominant issue of our time, is why have people come to believe in nonsense? I believe that they are suffering from a form of madness which is due to subscribing to unholy beliefs that negate God and His holiness to replace the holy with the profane. Man has placed himself in the moral driver's seat. So let us get to the bottom of this idea using the Socratic method. What is the Socratic method? The Socratic method, and now I'm drawing from Bing, directly from Bing AI. These are Bing AI's words. The Socratic method, also known as a method of elencus or Socratic debate, is a form of argumentative dialogue between individuals based on asking and answering questions. It was originated by the ancient Greek philosopher Socrates. In the Socratic method, Socrates describes himself not as a teacher, but as an ignorant inquirer. And the series of questions he asks are designed to help his interlocutors develop their understanding. The method begins with commonly held beliefs and scrutinizes them by way of questioning to determine their internal consistency and their coherence with other beliefs, bringing everyone closer to the truth. The Socratic method is employed today in a variety of pedagogical contexts. It is a technique of teaching and learning through critical thinking, reasoning, and logic. It involves asking questions after students summarize a case or legal principle and exposing contradictions and holes in their own theories. All the links from Bing provided underneath that section. Next question. How has the Socratic method been applied to Christian argument? The Socratic method has been applied, and again, this is from Bing. The Socratic method has been adopted in Christian argument and teaching due to its focus on critical thinking, questioning, and pursuit of truth. Here are some key points. Questioning and dialogue. The Socratic method involves questioning an opponent in dialogue to see if what they believe can withstand scrutiny. This approach aligns with Christian teachings that encourages believer to test everything and hold fast what is good. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 21. 2. Pursuit of truth. The goal of the Socratic method is truth, which is a central value in Christianity. The method encourages students to seek clarity, identify holes in logic, and redirect conversation when it drifts off track. 3. Critical thinking. The Socratic method teaches students to critique others' arguments respectfully and gracefully accept the critique of others. This aligns with Christian teachings that encourage believers to reason together. Isaiah 1, verse 18. 4. Educational tool. Many Christian schools and educational institutions use the Socratic method as a pedagogical tool. It is primarily practiced in grades 7 to 12, but may start as soon as the 5th grade. It is important to note that while the Socratic method has been adopted in Christian argument and teaching, interpretations and applications can vary widely. It is always a good idea to study these concepts in their full context for a deeper understanding. And again, all the sources from Bing below that portion. Next section, the reason for ideological possession according to famed evolutionary psychologist, Dr. Gad Saad. Dr. Gad Saad, a Canadian-Lebanese evolutionary psychologist, has written extensively on the topic of ideological possession. He uses the term idea pathogens to describe ideas that he believes are harmful and spread like diseases. According to Saad, these idea pathogens often originate in universities and then infiltrate other areas of culture. Saad argues that people become ideologically possessed for several reasons, and Bing lists. First, postmodernism. Saad identifies as postmodernism as a key idea pathogen. Postmodernism rejects the idea of objective truths, which Saad sees as an attack on the epistemology of science. 2. Cultural relativism. This is the belief that all cultural practices have equal value and that it is wrong to judge another's cultural practices. Saad argues that this can lead to the acceptance of harmful practices. 3. Rejection of meritocracy. Saad criticizes a shift away from merit-based systems towards systems based on identity politics. 4. Victim culture. Saad suggests that a culture that rewards victimhood can lead to the suppression of free speech and the stifling of intellectual debate. Saad believes that these idea pathogens are making people miserable and killing common sense. He argues for a return to reason, logic, and science to combat these harmful ideas. It's always a good idea to study these concepts in their full context for a deeper understanding. And again, all the links from Bing below. And I begin with the discussion yesterday which led me to clarify my position. I got into a discussion yesterday, if that's what one could call it, with someone who ostensibly holds a postgraduate degree in philosophy. He took umbrage with the fact that in my last blog and vodcast, I mentioned the outcomes of the U.S. sending funding to communist China for viral research. Funding which neither began nor ended with President Trump. I merely stated what Bing AI found as evidence that it continued under his administration. I find it to be absolutely bizarre that godlike powers are assigned to President Trump, who, after all, is just a man with all the frailties inherent to any man. In Trump's case, his greatest fault is quite likely his enormous hubris. Here are those findings from Bing AI, and again, Bing AI starts to answer this question. The U.S. government, specifically the National Institutes of Health, NIH, provided funding to several research institutes, including the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China. This funding was part of a grant to EcoHealth Alliance, a global environmental health nonprofit organization. The grant, worth $3.7 million, was used between 2014 and 2019 for various research purposes. However, not all of that $3.7 million went to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and not all of the funding took place under the Obama administration. Approximately $700,000 of the $3.7 million total was approved under Donald Trump. In addition, records show that the NIH provided approximately $2.5 million in additional funding to various organizations in China, including the Wuhan University, in 2018 and 2019 under the Trump administration. It is important to note that these estimates and the actual amounts may vary. Again, all the links from Bing. My thoughts again, beginning the next section. I also indicated that despite the odd relationship between Dr. Anthony Fauci and President Trump, that in Trump's last day in office, he awarded him a presidential commendation. Here is that information from Bing AI. The relationship between President Donald Trump and Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's leading infectious disease expert, publicly eroded as the coronavirus pandemic raged through the United States. They often disagreed on issues from what drugs to use and a vaccine timeline to something as simple as the fact that COVID-19 isn't going to disappear. Despite this, on Trump's last full day in office, he awarded presidential commendations to 52 people, including Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci has received numerous awards and recognition for his service during the COVID-19 pandemic. Some of these include the 2021 Special Recognition Award for the Association of American Medical Colleges for his commitment to scientific integrity and public health during the COVID-19 pandemic. The 2020 Gustav O. Leinhardt Award for Advancement of Healthcare from the National Academy of Medicine for his role as a leader of federal research and policy on infectious disease and his leadership in shaping an effective response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The $1 million Dan David Prize for defending science and advocating for vaccine administration to combat ongoing coronavirus pandemic. These are a few of the many recognitions Dr. Fauci has received for his tireless efforts during the pandemic. It's always a good idea, in this case a very good idea, to study these concepts in their full context for a deeper understanding. All the links from Bing. And my conclusions. The entire point of my previous blog and vodcast was to point out some key events which have led to our current dilemma. Ideological possession of one kind or another resulted in powerful people playing God and wreaking untold havoc by messing with things far beyond their ability to control, predict, or even understand. Be very wary of besserwissers, even if you think that he or she is on your side, but especially if you think that they are somehow a savior who will drain the swamp, rid you of the neo-Marxist boogeymen, deliver America from deep state corruption, or bring an end to woke ideation. Never in human history has a single leader ever managed such a feat. Certainly not some with such obviously clay feet of clay, as Donald Trump. Dispassionate detachment from the immediacy of your personal feelings is necessary when assessing such complex issues. Moreover, anyone attempting to control humanity and manipulate mankind like pieces on a chessboard is engaged in a fool's enterprise. God cannot nor will not be mocked. It is indisputable that we live in an age of ideological possession where mass hysteria has laid hold of radicalized minds who seek to create utopia instead of pursuing the narrow path to heaven, which can only be found in Christ. Matthew 23, verse 12, from the King James Version. And whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. It is obvious that this channel is dedicated to the select few reading and watching this episode who will willingly choose to do battle on behalf of the truth of Christ. I dedicate this to those of you who realize that no earthly deliverer can stop the totalizing enterprise of the ideologically possessed, a possession that has laid hold of the once but no longer Christian West. Are you one such warrior? If not, unsubscribe to this channel. Its content is obviously not for you. But if you are, I invite you to join me in intercessory prayer for God to restore his holy city as a praise in the earth unto his name, so that the church will regain its saltiness in a world overcome and undone by ideological possession. These are things to think and pray about and consider. God bless you all. Have a lovely afternoon.